find someone who knows the terrain. When children come to Earth, who do they know? We are their tour guides. So as tour guides, we need to be knowledgeable. We need to know what makes them tick. We need to know what's safe, what's not safe. And we need to be a good example, because what then happens is the way we deal with things is the way the children pick it up. Psychologists will talk about mirroring. If you think about children cooking, a lot of times what they learn is how we do things at home. The first language a child speaks is not the language they're taught in school. It's the language they hear in the house. And we don't teach them, they just pick it up. So the same way, the way they manage stress in life is the way we manage stress. The way, if they see us panicking, running helter-skelter, when something goes wrong, that's what they do. Because if your tour guide panics, you will panic. So let's remember we're the tour guides, and that means also it's important for us to mind our own mental health. Because when we take care of our own mental health, we learn healthy coping strategies, and the children learn from us. Okay. So finally, I will just kind of simplify this in thinking about mind health and mind health for children too. The easiest way to look at it is think about physical health. If you want to keep physically healthy, you eat good food. You eat healthy food, you get your vitamins and everything. So what do we feed our mind? Are we letting children watch violent films, violent movies, and that's sowing seeds in their mind? Are we speaking harsh words to them? Because if we think about ourselves, if someone says something harsh, how do we feel? Does it help our minds or does it bruise us? So feeding their mind is just like we feed their bodies. Relaxation, it's not all about do. For everybody, rest is important. So the same way we rest the physical body, we need to rest the mind. Sometimes because we're keen on children achieving so much, it's like, oh, by the time you go to school, do your homework, do this one, do that one, do that one. Where is the child's space to breathe out, to express themselves? Every child is uniquely designed with their own potential, and it's important to get to know the child. Okay. Engagement, and that goes to communication. Engaging the child. How was your day? What happened in school today? And sometimes some children are not very talkative. So with children who won't talk much, do something with them. As you're cooking, maybe you're cooking with them, or let's go for a walk, or we're going shopping together. Doing things together, you find out that they can open up easier. But you're not making them do those things because you're spelling out. Of course, chores are important in the house. It's not, you do it in the spirit of love. We're doing this together. There's a togetherness. So they feel included. If they feel included, they feel important. If they feel important, they will engage better. And exercise. So I talked about emotional management for us as adults, as tour guides for the children. What they see is what they will copy, just like the language they speak every day. The first language they speak is not what they learn in school. It's what they hear in the house. If they see that when something happens, we shout, that's the way they will start shouting. That becomes their emotional language too. So just like they learn their everyday language, that's how they learn the emotional language. So if we are showing unhealthy strategies in coping, then we need to change it, because when we change it, we're helping them change it too. Okay. Put this here just to say everybody is different. No two people have the same DNA. The same way, every child is different. If a child's mind is designed like this, and you're making the child do what this should be doing, we could be heading for disaster, because the child will then get frustrated because it's trying to get this truck to move as fast as this because of the pressure we're saying, oh, do this, do this. Or if the child is meant to be an ambulance that's rescuing people and we're trying to make the child fly. So every engine is different. Every mind is different. So let's help our child to maximize their own potential. If you try to make a fish climb a tree, you're going to frustrate the child. So look at the things they enjoy. Look at the things that cause them stress. Sometimes children will not want to do things just because they can't be bothered. Let's support them and make it enjoyable. It doesn't mean that when they say no, we should say no. I'm not suggesting that. But let's get to learn their strengths. Maybe a child likes doing things with their hands. It doesn't mean the child cannot learn, do well in academics as well. But that means the child might be better off at some skills. And it's important to let them excel in that. So know your child. People say KYC, know your customers. For me, working with children, I see it as know your child. And if the seeds in a child will determine what they will grow, what the harvest will reap. So if the child has seeds of tomatoes, we shouldn't be trying to make them grow into mangoes. We will frustrate ourselves, frustrate the child. And as we get older, we're just kind of like planting sorrow, harvest of sorrow. So let's allow the children to excel in their own giftings by feeding them the right language, feeding them encouragement, feeding them care, feeding them love, exercising healthy strategies. And my last words will be, know your child to grow your child. Let's get to know our children, care for them, nurture them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wonuola. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you, because I just sat down here and I'm going through my thoughts, even try to, recall how I grew up. And then at the same time, I'm also looking at my children. There's something you said that stood out for me. Like you said something that our children, we don't need to teach them our language. They just grow up, pick it, whether we are speaking Yoruba, Igbo, or Hausa. They just learn and pick it. And then we forget that apart from the language we are speaking, there are other languages we are speaking that these children are also picking. Like you said, emotional language.
Absolutely.
It just hits me like this. These are things we are doing unconsciously, but then there are languages that children are picking. So if you are not emotionally sound, we are speaking languages that are not sound to them.
Absolutely.
So the child grows up thinking that this is the particular way to do things and all that, especially when something like this happens, this is what you should do, because that's the language the tour guides were speaking when they were with them. It hit me so hard, and I want to thank you so much, because it's a very important statement there. Now, I don't know, before I go on to ask questions, if anybody has a question, please, you can put on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask directly. I don't know. Anybody? Please, I want to encourage you. You have an opportunity of a lifetime to ask pressing questions. I have been following a particular guy for so long when it comes to issues that borders with children. I found out that as a father, I don't know it all. Okay, there are some things that my children do. It gives me concern, and the next thing I'm thinking is, what is the best approach to this, so that you don't break them. You don't break them. I know that my son had a conversation with my wife the other day. As from the day my wife told me about the conversation, I've been thinking on the best approach to him so that I don't break him. I can always give him an opportunity to come back to talk again. Okay, so please, I want you to start rolling your questions. It's very important. This is a very important topic. When you check the way you grew up, you also know that some of us are repeating what we blamed our parents, what we blame them for. Some of us are repeating it over our children now. So please, let's see. Anybody with question? Anybody? Ask any question. If you have been observing your child, I believe you have a question to ask.
Sometimes we might see it as, maybe to keep confidentiality, we could look at it as, sometimes it might not be our child. But okay, what if, is there any child we've seen that we've been concerned about the child's behavior? And okay, we might have questions.
That can also help, please. Now, see, I want to come in this way. I want you to address this. There's something I found out in this place where, Nigeria here, what people normally call mental health is somebody who's mad.
Yeah.
Mental health issue. So somebody who's on the street, we don't, that's what they say when somebody says someone has a mental problem, you know, and so they defined it to that extreme. Yeah. But then there are people who are with you in the house, they are living normally like every other normal person, but they have mental issues. Can you give us an example of what these mental issues are expressed? I know one of them is depression. Can you give us, so that some people here can understand that it's not just madness?
Okay, I think the first thing I'd like to say is that word mental. Mental just means you have a mind. So anybody who is breathing and is thinking is mental. Okay. Because if you say you have a body, then you say anything that relates to the body, you say is physical. So anything that relates to the mind is mental. So the question is mental health, or is it a mental disorder or a mental illness?
I like that. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So all of us, as we're here, the fact that we can be listening, that means our mental faculties are functioning in different degrees. Awareness is one of it. Being able to think is one of it. So all of us are mental. Every human being who is thinking as aware of the environment is mental until you're really dead. You know.
I like that. I like that clarification, because here we battle with what is mental issues here now. You know, it's very good that you make that clarification so that anybody outside there will also understand that you need to classify things just the way they are and all that. Yeah. So let's talk about, you know, before now, Nigerians don't really know much about, there are depressions in Nigeria, but it wasn't much a word outside there, you know. But right now, a lot of things are happening. Both you see a child, 9 years, 10 years, 11 years, they say they are suffering depression and all this stuff. How do you tackle this as a parent? Because I was watching a movie, I showed my wife, it's a skit by a comedian. The girl walked up to the mom and said, "Mom, I'm depressed. I'm suffering depression." The mother looked at her and said, "Oh, depression, go to the kitchen, wash the place. I think you are less busy. That's why you are suffering depression." You know, it's a common thing you find here, because an average parent in Nigeria somehow doesn't believe that is real. They think it's just one thing like that. And, you know, here the mother was telling the child, "I think you are less busy. That's why you are suffering depression." So can we talk about that? You know, let's hear what you have to say.
There are different aspects to that, the issue of depression. Number one, it can be very loosely used. In the scenario you've described, for instance, now, the child is saying, "I am depressed." The question is the child depressed or not? So sadness is not depression. Sadness is a part of depression. So the fact that I said it's like having a wound. I can be sore. It doesn't mean my bone is broken. So there are degrees. Now, the other side of it as well is if something happened to you, like I ask people sometimes, if I pour hot water on someone and they don't react, there's a problem. So if something happens that is emotionally traumatizing and the person does not feel down, like let's say you lose a relative, a close relative, you will feel down. That is a normal reaction. But when that reaction gets to a degree or extends for a period where the person cannot engage in healthy functioning. So like in the case of depression, when the sadness becomes to a severity where the person is not able to engage in healthy functioning, it's affecting various aspects of life. Maybe the person now loses their appetite, not sleeping well, unable to go to school, withdrawing socially. You know that now this is more than a normal reaction and needs intervention. And then even the levels of intervention vary depending on the presentation and the impact it has on the person's life. So when a child says, for instance, "I'm depressed," because children these days are they're very aware and their vocabulary is quite vast. So they can use that word in different contexts. Well, it's important to find out, what do you mean by "I am depressed"? Why do you say that?
Okay,
so go on.
Sorry, that's the part I want to look at also these days. Let's assume that the child is or is not, but she comes to the mom and say that, and the mom just casually dismisses that.
That's where the danger is.
Yeah, that's where the danger is, because this is what you find normally here. There's something you said when you were speaking, that what we normally do with such cases, we feel we don't have the capacity to handle is to dismiss it.
Yeah.
We see it in our government, we see it everywhere. We just dismiss it. Your child comes to you to tell you that she was raped. You just dismiss it, because within your head, what will you do? You know, so as a parent, you've been able to list some of the things we should be able to do and other. But at the same time, I think also that we are battling culture here. So how do you advise parents? How do you advise parents in this culture, or this culture of shame that we have here, to come out and help the children? Because here we have I was teaching one day on sex matters, and I was trying to destroy this idea, this culture of shame, you know, where you should be able to build an atmosphere in your house where your children can walk up to you and talk about their feelings, you know, what they are going through, and then you'll be able to know, not when it is late, and then maybe the child sees that if I come to tell you what I'm going through, it's going to be hell will descend on the family, and the child decides to keep it to himself and not talk about it, you know. So what do you have to tell parents about that?
I will start by saying we should be very, very careful about the fear of other people's opinion, you know.
Okay.
And I think knowing our culture, that is a big killer for adults. It's like things like Ashwebi. Some people will not be able to afford it, you say, because of other people. Somebody is coming to visit you, it's not convenient, it's not the right time, you can't say no. Things are happening, we don't want to get help because we're thinking of what other people say. But when things then get complicated, the question I ask is, how many of these people that were afraid of their opinion will really stretch themselves to come and help? So if we start looking at people's opinion to make the decisions about our lives, what we're doing is enslaving ourselves, or even worse still, making ourselves puppets. Because if anything happens to our children, if they have a severe mental breakdown or something goes really adversely wrong, who bears the brunt of it? It's the parents. So the fear of man, it causes is a trap. So before we're seeing the trap already, we can avoid it. So it's talking to ourselves before these issues come up, and also joining hands with like-minded people, because association is so important. The people we relate to, and it's important to dare to be different. Some people will call you eccentric, tough. You know, it is my life, it is my child's life. Because like I said, 10 years down the line, if things go wrong, if the police are onto the child, or the child has joined the gang, or something has gone wrong, that's the real shame. The shame is not in pleasing people. So we need to dare to be different, and in daring to be different, it can be difficult to stand alone, especially in our culture. So joining hands with like-minded people, making sure that our network is the network that feeds healthy thoughts and healthy behaviors. Otherwise, the shame that we're thinking we're avoiding now, it will be times 10 down the line.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And everyone, please, let's take note of that. I know what this culture of shame has how the blow it has dealt on people, families, you know, because of what people will say, this is our family, we don't do this here, and all that. And children went on with trauma and trauma and trauma and trauma, you know. You see a child after 15 years, he or she is coming up to say what happened 15 years ago, because there wasn't any atmosphere to discuss that. It's a key factor. You know, now the other question I want to ask is that where your tour guide is panicking, the child's tour guide is under panic, how, you know, it means that he has to get help first.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, a lot of tour guides are under panic. Maritally, they're under panic. Financially, they're under panic. All kinds of panic, emotionally under panic. How do you advise so that they don't transfer that same thing on the children. Because you see, somebody said in Lagos here, that where the most accidents happen between 7 to 9 a.m. And they said the reason is because of how people leave their house. So you see such people, when they now eventually get to the office, that day's work is everybody will take a share of what happened at home. The children, everyone will take a share of the breakdown at home. So how do you advise parents that when you under panic, maybe there are issues or something, you have to be very careful enough to not to transmit or transfer that to your children? Please, let's hear about that.
Yeah, the first thing I will say is I cannot underestimate the pressure people are under. Globally, is bad enough. And then in individual countries, the specific countries with their own unique problems. So with all respect, if anyone is panicking, honestly, you have my sympathies. I can't even say I understand. I can only imagine. And people are justified to panic. Now, let's look at why do we panic? Because we're dreading something. So sometimes people will say, get rid of fear. No, fear should be our friend. Because when that feeling comes, it's trying to tell you something needs to be done. So the minute you get that thought of, oh my goodness, it's an alert, I need to make some adjustments. But the most important thing is to put a plan in place before those moments come. So having forums like this where you can talk about it and not just as a one-off, because we can talk about things. It's like sometimes you go to a faith session, you hear a sermon, you feel supercharged, or you go for a motivational speaking engagement. You feel supercharged, it only lasts for so long. So it's that regularly listening to healthy coping strategies from other people. How are you coping? What did you find helpful? Because what helps in every situation is kind of unique to every environment. I mean, I can start talking about health services where in Nigeria now, in terms of what's available, as much as I would know what's available here. So if somebody had a health problem, how would I be able to signpost them? So having a knowledge of what's available locally, linking up with other people who know what is available before the problem comes. So essentially is having a plan in place. If the mornings are getting stressful, what can I do? Speak with a friend. In the mornings, life is stressful. How do you manage? It might be simple things like the night before, I get the children's food ready. I do these things in preparation. So preparation is key before the distressing emotions come. So just like we prepare for an event, if you're going to have a baby, you prepare before time in terms of, I'm going to buy this, whatever we do, preparation is key. We know that stress will come. What do I do to cope? And what helps each person is different. So for some people, when you know that if I'm stressed, if I get home, I'm going to scream, just let them know at home, once I come back from work, I need 30 minutes alone in my room. After the family knows that, that's better than getting home and shouting at everybody. So you put a plan. Every day I get back, I need 30 minutes. I will go and have a bath. By the time you finish that, so everybody has to know what works for them. Different things work for different people. But put a plan in place and connect with the right people.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Please, I want to believe that some people have questions by now. Anybody, please? Okay, I have Uchenna here. Uchenna, I'm going to unmute you, please, so you can ask your question. You can raise your hand if you have. Okay, you can go ahead, Uchenna, please.
Okay, good evening, Ma.
Good evening.
Good evening, Pichu and Pastor. I want to say thank you so much, Ma. It's been very, 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 very informative. Though I didn't join early, but I was able to get a few things. So I have two questions, one for me and then one for a friend of mine that we are trying to sort out the challenge she's having with her child. Okay, so for me, I have this son that is he's overly assertive, okay? So sometimes you try to talk to him calmly, or brave, get this done and all that. And most times he's trying to question, oh, why should I do this? Or, and the truth is sometimes it just pushes me. I get very edgy, and I won't know when I'm shouting like, "Oh, must you have to question everything?" Not like question, but he's just too inquisitive to a fault. So at this point, I'm now asking, how do I manage that so that I won't kind of damage that thing in him? And yet I'm still in control as his mom, because what I'm just trying to do is not to lose that control where, because I'm trying to get him to be open, I'm now letting him have his way, each time. It's a struggle now. So just that's my own challenge. And then for my friend, her daughter is she's having this complex issue. She just doesn't believe in herself, and we're trying to find out why. And at some point we now realize, okay, that it's the school she attends. So in her class, she feels she's not good enough. She feels her parents is not meeting up to, like, what other people are providing and all. So my friend is finding it difficult, because even putting her out of the school and putting her in another school wouldn't solve the problem. So when a parent is going through that kind of challenge, what would you advise, Ma?
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
take it one by one. And thank you for being so open. Thank you, because it helps us, it helps everybody else to learn from that as well. Could I ask, how old is your son?
Okay, he's 5.
Oh, that's really
He'll be
good.
5. He'll be 5. He'll be 5 in August.
So he's 5 and he's asking so much questions.
Yes,
Maybe
yes,
you've
yes.
got an Einstein in
Very.
your house. And that's good. And the other thing you've recognized, and I'll say well done for that as well, is you said sometimes you just kind of feel tired, and it's, you're thinking this boy's questions are too many. At the same time, you said you don't want to shut him up. You don't want to kind of suppress his potential. And I know I use a lot of analogies, but it drives the point home, I think. If we I think about children as treasure. They're like diamonds in like a mine. But if you're going to get diamonds, you don't see it as diamonds. What you see is, it looks like coal. It doesn't look attractive. It is stressful. To get the diamond out, it is work. And the work is in different stages. So he's asking the questions, but you're tired. But the truth is, sometimes we don't even have all the answers, because their mind, and that's why I said with the illustration about engines. So this might be a very, very powerful mind. And that's why he's asking the questions. He's connecting with his environment, and he wants to know, why is this working like this? His mind is buzzing with ideas. You don't know what is going to transform in tomorrow's world. So you can see all those signs. We can't see the mind, but we can see the way the mind is acting. We can see the impact on the environment. And honestly, as parents, sometimes we don't have the answers. So rather than, it's okay to say, I don't know. Why don't we do this together? Why don't we check it together? Let's Google it together. And guess what? In the process, you would also be learning. And then you can also ask him questions. And then he's actually fulfilling his potential. Okay, I can see you raising your hand. Go on.
Yes. Sorry, I have a follow-up question to this so that you answer it together. So he's a set of twin.
Okay.
And then he's also very smart when it comes to his studies. But his twin brother is not as, I don't want to use the word as good, but he's not, I don't know, I just don't want to use the wrong word, but he still has a lot of work to do. And then I noticed that it's kind of affecting him now, because when he comes home, in fact, I've gone to pick them in school, and the teacher is telling me, oh, buy something for Brave. I've done so much in school. And then the twin brother is looking and he's discouraged. Why is everybody talking about this boy? Why is everybody, so I don't know how to, bring him to that point where he also feels very good about himself. So I don't know if you have like ideas, that can also help me work him up as well.
Yeah. That happens a lot with twins. And do you know what? Even if the casing for two things are the same, because I see the body as a case, it doesn't mean the engine is the same. We all agree no two human beings on this earth have the same DNA. And somebody used an illustration I found so powerful once. He said, if you're making popcorn, not all the kernels pop at the same time. Some will pop very early, others will pop much later. But guess what? They all have the potential to be popcorn. Now, when I showed, I don't know if you saw the pictures of my tomatoes. They were actually my tomatoes. I grew them in the garden last year. I can show them again. And what fascinated me, let me even pull it up again if I can. Okay, that's it here. Sorry. See, this is on the same plant. Can you see my tomatoes?
Yes.
And in fact, I have another one. There were 3 different colors on the same stem. One was green, one was this color, one was orange. So even if they are twins, their giftings are different. So, and unfortunately, what happens is sometimes because everybody is celebrating one, I still had that a few weeks ago with a set of twins, and the other twin was so angry, and they were actually 16 now. And it's causing a lot of fight in the house, So it doesn't mean that the quieter twin does not have gifts and talents. So it's like looking at a truck. It is powerful. Then you see a limo. It is just as powerful, but the truck is, you can see the truck faster, the engine is louder, but the limo is quiet. They do different things. So with the other son who's quieter, what I'd say is, if as a mom, if you just keep looking closely, and even if you're without even picking up fine details, there are things you will see. Maybe it's the one who's helping mom. Maybe it's the one who's even kind of asking, Mommy, how are you? Celebrate every child for the good things they do. Make a big deal of it. Oh, you're so sensitive. You're so thoughtful. Thank you for checking. How did you notice I was feeling tired? Those little things go a long way because the child then sees it as, oh, so there's something good about me. And with time, when it's his own time to shine, his popcorn will pop. So our own is to keep nurturing them and not turn on the fire, and then the ones that have not popped will now burn.
Interesting.
And sorry, then you talked about your friend's daughter. I think with her, there will probably be a lot more to know to get the full picture, because it's just a fraction of what's going on we see. So she's struggling with schoolwork. Quite often we get that, and it can be quite not specific. What area of schoolwork? Is it writing? Is it reading? Is it paying attention? Because if it's writing, then all she needs, it might be just support with the writing bit. If it's paying attention, maybe they need to give her work to her in bits. And doing long stretches of work makes her too tired and she loses concentration. So
sorry, ma, not schoolwork necessarily. So she feels that everyone in the class is prettier, all the girls in the class. So she's going through these complex issues. So it's something that we don't even know where she got that idea from. But it's not schoolwork per se. She just doesn't believe in herself, and she doesn't have that confidence that she's as pretty as other girls in the class.
How old is she?
She's 8.
Okay, so she's still quite young.
Yes, she is, ma'am.
Yeah. Usually there's always a root to most of these things, and it takes exploring to find out where it all started from. But in the interim, it always starts with, so maybe somebody said something, or quite often there's always a root to it. Or maybe somebody said people with long hair, you are better. It could just be one sentence that she picked somewhere. And it's the more her mom engages with her, not necessarily saying, why do you think this way? Just spend more time with her. And sometimes you find that children will talk more when they're off guard. Let her mom spend time, or not even just her mom, even her dad. Let her know she's a princess. She is precious. The more she knows that, the more that starts reflecting in what she says and what she does. But she needs to hear it, not just in words, but in action. And celebrated in every little way. Some people don't believe in themselves, and then just because, people are saying you're good at this, the more they hear it, after a while, the brain actually takes it. And a lot of studies have shown that things we hear over and over and over, after a while, we imbibe it. So it takes, when words go in, or any kind of programming of the brain, it takes a reprogramming to get it out. So something has contaminated that thinking. It's like a virus. And now you want to run an antivirus, a mind antivirus. But that antivirus is not one that you just run, you just say it once. You have to keep reinforcing it till it's almost as it were. If you think about a glass of dirty water and you want to change that water into clean and you can't pour it out, what you do is you keep pouring clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water, until it becomes so dilute. After a while, the clean water then displaces the dirty. So it's a new program that needs to be run in her mind that, you know, gets the old program out.
I agree with you totally. Yeah, I agree with you totally. I've seen a couple of children who are going through some stuff, and of course, one of the things I tell the parents to do is to dig deep, leave the things you are saying now, and check the roots. If you don't get to the roots, it will be difficult for you to deal with that. Of course, somebody might have said something somewhere, did something that changed, altered the whole system. And it's very key. I want to encourage you, Jay, to also tell your friend about this. It's very important you relate this to your friend, that they should check, he should go beyond what she is saying now to know exactly what could have gone wrong somewhere. Thank you so much. Thank you. So any other person, any other question, please? I believe by now I'm supposed to see. Okay, I have a hand up. Okay, Noye, you can ask your question. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Maz. Thank you very much for this exciting and educative session. I actually have a question for a friend of mine who is going through a very bitter divorce in the state. And then she was a victim of domestic abuse. And then she has two children, a daughter who is about 13, going to 14, and a son. And the both of them have been so badly affected that she told me the daughter was saying things like, "Mommy, I will never get married," because she witnessed her dad beating her mom and all that. It's a very bitter divorce. They had to leave Arizona to Atlanta, you know, and it's in the cases, she even goes through, like, she's been depressed at times. So she calls me up for like hours talking, you know, and all that. So she told me the children are actually going through some therapy sessions, but she said they still have that mindset that, "Mommy, they're never ever going to get married. Is this what marriage is all about?" You know, they even have this like hatred for their father presently and all that. So I don't know. I really want to help her, but I don't know what to tell her. I don't know how to, you know, I don't know what the advice to offer to her. So I don't know if you have any tips so I can tell her. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Domestic abuse is a very complex one, I have to say, because a lot of times people don't even see how far the trauma goes, because it's not just the physical abuse. Because even without physical abuse, there's a lot of emotional trauma, and then that compounded, so it can be quite complex. And you're so right, it affects children, and it affects children in different ways. And what we don't even realize is, even from a very young age, even where there's no physical abuse, little children see it. A 4-year-old once told her childminder, "I know my parents are going to separate." A 4-year-old. And they said they didn't tell the child anything, or it was an amicable separation. Children are very perceptive. So the trauma the children have witnessed, what they've gone through themselves, might be a lot more extensive than what we're even aware of. So they're doing the right things in terms of therapy, but watching their mother's pain and what they've been through as well can be very difficult. There are lots of agencies that support victims of domestic abuse, and they are professionals in this, especially in America, in UK. So if she's in Atlanta, what I could do is find out what there is there. But if she's already in therapy, isn't she, herself?
Well, yes, she goes to the therapy, but mostly for her children.
She needs therapy as well.
She needs also, like we said, when the tour guide is also under panic, it's very important that she gets herself so that the children can also get one.
Absolutely.
If the children are getting the therapy and she is not, it's not going to complete the equation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes what they might actually then need is almost like a family setting, like a family therapy, you know, for all of them. So I mean, interestingly, I don't know where in Atlanta she is. I've got a friend in Atlanta who runs family therapies and who runs therapeutic centers. So that might be one to consider. But she needs therapy herself. She's part of what she's doing is almost like somebody who's pouring out of an empty cup. She herself hasn't recovered, and her focus, like a healthy-minded mother, is her mind. But she's probably not realizing she needs help as well. And it's not going to happen fast. Healing is a process, and the more traumatic something is, the longer it's bound to take. So she does need to get therapy. She needs a healthy support network. After the session, I can send some information on resources for domestic abuse. So I'll send it to you, and then
Okay.
I'll send that. There are lots of resources, but she needs a support network. It's a lot to carry. So if I can use another analogy, it's like somebody who's been wounded and she's still carrying the weight of parenting. Parenting is two people's job. Now, one person goes, it's a lot of work for the only person left. Now, if that only person left is even severely traumatized, it's even more weakening. So for love of her children as well, she needs to look after herself.
Yes, ma. Thank you, ma.
I love that. I think that is very important. Well, let's hear from Obianiju Okonkwo. You're muted. Are you there? Obianiju, are you there?
Yes. Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening.
Sorry, I joined late, but at least I've taken one or two things that I have to even correct myself. I think I have to say a very big thank you to this Zoom chat. I have a problem that I've been looking out for a way to see somebody that will assist me with it. My elder sister is a single mother, and the only daughter she has been a problem. I wouldn't want to say that because I grew up with them. I think as a parents, we do what we are supposed to do, but I don't know what happened. At the time I don't know. It's a big problem now. Wherever she goes to, we must have a bad complaint about her. She's this lazy that she can't do anything for herself. Church-wise, she doesn't go.
How old is she?
She's grown. She's supposed to be in her final year, but still not. The school has given her extra 2 years. I don't know. And as the only girl in the family, is weighing everybody down. She's too lazy. She can't. I don't know. I don't know if it is late, if she cannot change, because the only thing I'm hearing here is a girl, children of 5 years, 8 years. But I believe that there's nothing God cannot do. I don't know if she's I don't know. I don't know the best way. I've talked to her, called her, as in even, she doesn't want to hear anything about God. She will tell you that you people's time has passed. I don't know.
Okay, do you have anything to say there, Onobi?
I would say there's a place for everything. And sometimes when we see things on the surface, we are only seeing the tip of the iceberg. And the question I always ask is why? If there's a deviation from the norm, there's a reason. So the fact that we don't know the reason may not mean that the person is lazy. It's still down to behaviors are a reflection of the state of mind. Now, some of it might not be because there's a mental illness or a mental disorder. It might be personality issues, or it might be her own way of coping. Maybe the work is too much and she just decided, you know what, I cannot come and die. People have different ways of coping with things. And sometimes what we then need to do is help them that, okay, this is what the challenge is. What if you got more help? What if somebody could make it easier for you? What if you had more time? But without knowing the reason why she's behaving the way she is, it's difficult to prescribe a solution. The question is why we do what we do. So it's the same thing like physical health. If somebody has a fever, I cannot say it's malaria. I can say it may be, but it could be 1,001 things. It could be so many things. So with each person, one would have to assess the details of the situation to be able to come to what's needed. And in the bit of her not wanting anything to do with God, there's a place for, and I know you mentioned that prayer, you've been praying, and that's important. There's a place for prayer. There's a place for getting help. If you had a car accident and you broke your bones or you were bleeding, you will not just be praying. You will pray and you will quickly call for help to come and fix this bone or to get blood transfusion if it's needed. So the same thing with the mind. If we see behaviors that deviate from the norm, yes, it's important. Let's pray, but also let's make sure the person is getting the right help.
Okay, let me also add this, sometimes when we say we talk to people, I tell people that sometimes what we actually should be doing is talking with people and not talking to people. So when somebody has a problem, you sit him down, you start talking to him. Now, how do you talk to somebody that you have not listened to? You have to talk with him, get the person to a place where the person can open up and share or pour his or her heart to you. And then you can actually know what to tell the person. Because if you don't know, if someone has not shared his or her heart with you on what he or she is going through, I can bet you that everything you are saying on your own. That's the truth.
Absolutely.
In this coaching business, it's one of the things you are taught to do, to listen and listen and listen and listen. As a matter of fact, you are asked to talk 5% of the time, 5 to 10% of the time, and do more of listening so that the person can actually speak. And if at all you should talk, you are asked to talk in a way that you're asking relevant questions that can bring more answers out. All right. So sometimes when we say we talk to people, we should change it to talk with them, not to talk to them. So I will encourage you to find a time and bring this person to an atmosphere that is supercharged with concern and care. Supercharged with, let me tell you something. A woman called me one day. She said, my son is the woman, my son. She was talking my son. So I sent a chat to the son that I want to speak with you. The son said, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. So I said to my other, I said, I didn't say I want to talk to you. I said, I want us to have a chat. I just want to hear your side of the story. And before I said that, he wrote me another chat that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Nobody wants to. So I said, that is why I'm asking you. I want to have a chat with you. And eventually we set up a FaceTime call. And I told the guy, tell me your own side of the story. For 1 hour, I listened to this guy. I didn't say a word. I didn't say anything. And the guy told me everything that is happening, how the mom is not respecting him, told me everything. So when he was done, I said, okay, that's, I don't have anything to tell you. I'll go back to your mom and I'll have a chat with your mom. And the guy was so happy. He was thanking me. Of course, what he needed at that time is to pour out his heart. That he also has concerns, and I did it for him. And then I also went back to the mom. I said, this is what your son said. This is what your son said. I think if you make this adjustment, we can watch it from there. So from that time, he talks with me. The other day, I just sent him a chat. He said, yeah, I want to speak with you, please. And he chatted me or we started talking again. And he found somebody he could talk to, about some things that are concerns to him. So I encourage you, go back to that lady, create an atmosphere of that is full of concern, show him that care, or show her that care, show her that love, show her that you're not here to discuss her problem, whether she has a problem of laziness or whatever perception people have about her. And you will see after some time, she will break down to speak with you about some of the things that she has never told anybody, or she has told few people who could not help her. That's my contribution to that. It will help. I've seen it work over time, over and over and over and over and over. Let me give you another story. When we were growing up, my two younger brothers, they were still in secondary school then, and so this man came to our house. I was warning my dad about two. They are twins. I was warning my dad about two of them, that they came to his house to come and look for the daughter, that he doesn't want to see them. If he sees them in his house again, he's going to kill them, that. So when the man left, my father called my younger brothers and was like, angry with them. What did you go to that house to do? Why are you going there to chase a woman? This one down, no? And he raised his voice, he shouted at them. So my father now called me in after that. They were still there. And so when my father called me, my father told me everything the man said. So I told my two younger brothers to go out. So they went out. And then I said to my dad, when you were at their age, did you look for women? My dad kept quiet. I said, even me that is talking to you here, sometimes I have feelings for women. I also want to look for a woman. Did you do that? My father kept quiet. I said, I think you should use your experience of how, if you did overcome it, how you overcame it to speak to them. And not to tell them at all that they are doing the worst thing a man can ever do. My father was so quiet, he couldn't say anything. So I asked the two of them to come in. They came back, and I said to them, did you do this? Yes, no. And my other brother said to me, he said, brother, we didn't go to that house to look for that girl. We went there because there's another schoolmate that lives in the compound. And when we got there, the girl came out, and all of us happened to be in school. And this particular girl had been disturbing us in class, me and my younger brother. And then it happens that we didn't even know she lives in the compound. So I talked to my dad, I said, this story and that man's story, which one do you want to believe? He kept quiet. I said, you have to believe one. So if you choose to believe that, then means that you want to damage these children from talking to you. So why don't you find a balance and then speak to them about the whole thing you have heard, and then let them go ahead and then know, okay, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. So I want to encourage you. I just want to use that story to tell you, because from that day, my brothers, they tell me everything, every action. When I mean every action, I mean every action they want to take. That from that day till dates. So I want you to also see that, create that atmosphere where people can feel that I can lean on your shoulder and pour my heart, and don't have any iota of judgments coming from you, and all that. It's very important. So do you have another question?
No. Thank you.
All right. Any other person with any other question? But what, do you think you can do this that we asked you to do?
Yes, I can. I'm even thinking of the best way to do it, because she says invite her over.
Yeah, change the environment, change your approach. The approach, if you change it, you're going to see a difference.
And it confirms that saying that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's just so important with young people to listen, which is the same thing about when you connect. The communication is not effective until you connect. Once that connection is there, there's nothing. Like what Williams was saying about your brothers, they would say anything. I mean, talking about the lady who spoke earlier about her friend who was divorced, who went through a divorce. I am divorced myself, and going through it affected my children in different ways. I'm careful to talk about it, not because of myself. I'm not embarrassed about it at all. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. You have to do what's right for each season. But because of you, you mentioned about the children, and it was important to hear them. And just what you were saying about people coming to pour, everybody wants to advise. Uncle wants to advise, pastor wants to advise. I had to get to a point to know enough. And the church, I don't even know these people, and everybody wants to talk. But it's easier to connect where there's a relationship, when you know someone cares, especially when things are very painful. So, that example about listening to that young man, thank you so much, William, for sharing it. It is so, we see it every day at work. Just listening, and then they keep asking, is that person we want to see again? So it goes a long, long way. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Thank you very much. Let's hear from Treasure. You're muted now. You have a question? Can you go ahead and unmute yourself? Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. You've really said a lot this evening. You know, when you were talking about the tour guide, it was amazing, you know, because I know a lot of children are going through a lot, not just because of things happening externally, but what is actually happening in their families. So how would you advise parents as in regards to this, their relationship with each other for the sake of the mental health of their children?
You mean the parents' relationship?
Yes, yes.
Let's put it simply. Children are watching. And the parents, you can look at the parents' relationship as what determines the atmosphere in the house. If there's tension in the house, how would you feel as a child? If there's constant argument. Now, it doesn't mean that as parents, there won't be differences. It doesn't mean that there won't be disagreements. The question is, how do we manage it? It's how people manage it that determines the atmosphere in the house, because then the children will learn we can disagree, but it doesn't have to become toxic. And also, I would say that again, in terms of putting up with abuse, for some people, just the fact that a parent, like the example about the lady going through domestic abuse, being what the children watching their mother being battered. And I have to say, sometimes it's the other way, although commonly it's women, it could happen, whichever way it is, a child watching that is growing up thinking, I don't want any of this. And if it is not addressed properly by a parent, sometimes you find that children as they get older, all they're looking for is disconnecting with that family. And some children then, they leave home and they don't want anything to do with their family because it does not bring good memories at all. It's actually thinking of the family they grew up in just gives them pain. So what's the point? Everybody wants to keep themselves safe. So it's important as parents to realize that there will be differences, but let's manage it in a healthy way, because that's what's going to determine we're responsible. We are the tour guides. We're responsible for the atmosphere in this house, and it's important to keep it healthy. See, if we see the children as plants and they're fragile, and they need the right atmosphere and nurture to grow, what atmosphere are we creating as parents? So also it's treating one another right. So spending time together as parents, being friends, the communication and and connection. Because sometimes as tour guides, the tour guides are not speaking the same language. So that's causing confusion as well. So some parents need to get help as tour guides, know your terrain and engage with the right support, because that's the atmosphere that will reflect in the house. I don't know if that's helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course. I want to say something. You know, I also found out that some people, single parents in the sense now that not just not as maybe what so-called premarital or what do you call it now? How do you call it? A teenager being pregnant, give birth to a child, and then some of them pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy. Some of them are seeing the children now like you are my problem. You know, I know some of us here on the chat, they deal with teenagers a lot. They are seeing these children like you are. When they look at the children, they are like, you are the fruit of my problem, you know, and some of them, they transfer this whole thing on the children. You know, what do you advise, even if they are not here, maybe somebody here might know someone who is going through that or something. What do you tell these young girls that felt, okay, I've made this mistake and they want to live with this mistake and they want to transfer everything on the children and it's affecting them so seriously? Because, you know, let me be frank with you. Most of the concerns that we raise here, if we go back to the roots, you find out that most of them was actually what a caregiver, mostly the parents, or somebody they trust, said to them. The teacher said to them, the father or the mother said to them, or somebody they trust so well made a comment, and the children are now somewhere. Nobody is talking to them. Nobody can find their bearing again. So what do you say to these teenagers or these young ladies who has not come to celebrate the gift of that child, even though it came in a way they didn't actually expected it?
And I love the way you put it, the gift of that child, and basically what they're looking at is at the package and they forget the treasure inside.
Yes.
And yes, they may have made a mistake, but the mistake does not have to define us. We can't go back to yesterday. Yesterday is gone. We're not in the future yet, but what we do with each moment we're in determines the future. And what we even think is a problem might be what is actually going to be the blessing. And I look at someone like Obama, with the circumstances, as far as I recall, the father was an alcoholic, he was an abusive relationship. But rather than the mother let that define her, she pushed forward, she fought for the best for this man. Well, as a young boy, she fled the abusive relationship. She had to carry on as a single parent. So single parent is not a dirty thing. I am a single parent and I am happily a single parent. Yes, the wish is to be married, or which was, but things don't necessarily go as we plan. And we can read scores of stories through history, through the Bible, where things don't go as planned, but ultimately it works out to the best. But if we hold ourselves captive by what has gone wrong in the future, in the past, we're holding ourselves with chains, where the future lies ahead with lots of possibilities. So yes, I've got this child. Yes, I didn't plan for the child. Yes, I am 16 with a baby. But do you know what? What I do or do not do is what's going to transform my life, is what's going to define the future. So how can I, with the present circumstances, give the best to this child, be the best mother? It's not being married or single that makes you a healthy parent. It's what you do with you and the relationships around you. Oh. So essentially, is don't let the past define you. Step out of that frame. It's as if there's a frame of shame, like they would say, you can't see yourself when you stay that. Step out of it. The past is gone. We're moving forward. And there's a lot of possibility in the future, depending on whether you choose to embrace it or not.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And it's very important we address that, because people are roaming the street and very confused about their past, very confused about the product of their past, and it's causing a lot of panic here and there. Okay, so not another person with a question. You can't change the past, of course. You can. And there's something you said, you don't have to. It doesn't take being married or single to be a good parent. So you have to be a good parent, a good person to do that. So when you find yourself in the frame of single parent or married person, you can still do what you are supposed to do and do it properly, do it very, very well. And that is why I say it all the time. I like that's word you used. Those words, tour guide. The tour guide has to know his work. You want to visit Dubai and you get a tour guide, and the tour guide doesn't know where to take you to, what to do with you, and all that. Because you might find yourself just moving around the points. And then you get back, you say, I went to Dubai. And they ask you, where did you go to? And you can't mention one place because you have a bad tour guide. Okay, so, but every tour guide can still improve himself by going ahead to learn and study his work and all that. And I tell everybody, I say it to everybody I know, you can be a better person. There's something John Maxwell said. He said, change is possible. And in our another statement, he said that change, anybody can change. And he made the third statement, he said that change is profitable. So there's no human being that cannot change. And change is very possible. You can become a better parents starting from today. You can become better, and by the time you know it, the whole thing is being profitable to you. So let's not take on the normal traditions of Africa, where we are tough as parents and then we are breaking the children. Tough, but breaking the children. And we keep breaking them because we want to have control, like we said, we want to have control over them. Of course, you should know you have a limited time with them. So by the time you finish exerting the control, when they leave you, the control is over, and then that is the time you start seeing the damage you've caused. So you start telling people that your son has not called you in the past 2-3 years because the guy doesn't want to call again. He's tired. He's tired of you. He's tired of all your whatever, and he's just on his own. So let's not get there. Let's do the right things and see how far God will help us to bring our children to the point where He wants us to bring them. Like I said, children are gifts from God. That few years you have with them. Remember, you have few years with them. That few years you have with them before they leave the house. Enjoy it while it lasts. And do it very well. When you do it very well, of course, you enjoy it more. But if you don't do it very well and they leave the house, that is it. Yep. Every child, let me tell you something I found out. Whether you are a good parent or a bad parent, every child desires to leave the house. I'm telling you. It gets to the point where they want to move out and, with the friends and do everything. So, but when you get it right, you might not get it 100% right, but to a large extent, you got it right. The child keeps coming back. He keeps taking steps back, making those calls back, carry you along. No, he won't come home one day bringing you one thing like that and say, this is the person I want to marry. And you are now shattered and broken, and all that. So let's look at that. And my encouragement to everyone also is to tell you to study more and more. Please, can you give us, if maybe you can put your website on the chat section so that people can also visit and read some of the articles.
Thank you.
Of course, any materials you also feel like they should also get to add to their library on their child's mental health. They can also please find time to read, find time to read all those documents. It will help you. I do that with my wife, so you have to consider that very important, very, very important. If you don't do further reading, you will just stay within that scope. Well, where what you know is just what you know, and there's no other thing. So, but there are books there that can help you make some massive movement over your children. Very powerful books. I think one of the guys I look forward to when it comes to parenting is Dobson. I'm trying to remember
James Dobson.
Yeah, James Dobson. Yeah, I have a book I consider as a reference material. I listen to his videos. I go to his question and answer listen to check out, some of the things, because sometimes you have some things you want to know. How do you handle this? And some people have answered it. There's no need reinventing the wheel. Go there, pick some of the answers, then come back to yourself and then see what you can do with that. So please, you can visit our website. And of course, there's also another website here. Okay, another website. Yeah, that you can also visit, and then you can also visit Amazon on her book, Minding My Mind. It's a very powerful book. We read a little bit of it the other day before. We had the privilege to read a little bit of it the other day. So please find time to buy that book on Amazon. It's very important to do. Thank you. So please, what are your last comments before we end this today?
I would say the one thing that's helpful is know your child to grow your child. We want the best for our children. We want them to excel, but every child is different. So know your child to grow your child. And remember, the fear of man, it causes a trap. So do what's in the best interest of the child, and let go of the fear of what them say or what anybody says, Know your child to grow your child, and as tour guides, mind your mind.
Thank you very much. And please, I want to add also to that fear of man, also try to get rid of your own fear, because some parents are afraid of what their children will turn out. And they are so worried that they are now doing everything to see if they can change what they don't even know what the child
what does not exist. Yeah.
So please let's also add to that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's say thank you, please, on the chat box to her. Thank you and thank you and thank you and thank you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your everything you've done, every comment, every word you've shared with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Please let's keep saying for you. They say thank you to her. Please, thank you and thank you.
I have to say thank you very much for having me. And it's a Sunday evening. I know everybody could be doing something else, but so thank you so much, because for me, I don't know, I'm passionate about children,
Yes,
so I'm grateful to everyone who's invested in making children's lives better. Thank you very much. And thanks a lot, Williams. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you and thank you. All right, so you can exit the meeting now, or if you want to have a little chat. If somebody wants to take our contact, you can do you have like 30 seconds to do a private chat to her and get her details. If you want that, you can follow her on Facebook. Just pick her name, search it out, you see her on Facebook, and then follow her on Facebook and continue any conversation, any question with her there. So we just have 20 seconds more to do that before we exit. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.